Hey, in this video we'll be talking about principles of animation. Most of you know the 12 principles of animation. You can right now Google it and see the 12 principles of animation. But in this video we won't be talking about them. So from last few days I was thinking, do I use a new set of principles or do I still use the 12 principles which I was using in my school days? In my school days, most of my friends and even me, we were trying to remember those 12 principles and we were trying to by heart those 12 principles. And in all the animation we were doing in our class, we were trying to fit those animation into the framework of those 12 principles. Even in our exams, we were asked the questions about those 12 principles. But now as an experienced animator, I try to think that do I still use those 12 principles or do I think differently? Before I start talking about those my principles, I have to say that I really respect those 12 principles, and those 12 principles are written by legends of animation, and I have nothing bad to say about that. But by time, I feel that the animation is evolved, and it is evolved into different forms, and especially in realistic and creature animations, those 12 principles are very limited. So now I'm going to share the 5 principles which I always use in animation. So my first principle is physics. You guys will say that physics is not a principle, it's a study in science. I think that when we do animation, we are just trying to recreate the physics in Maya. And for example, FX artists, what they do is they simulate the physics. But as an animators, we animate physics. Like especially if you are a realistic animator, you try to animate the physics. So if you think about physics, if you think about animation in physics, in the term of physics, then I think you will understand the animation better, especially if you're talking about the realistic and creature animation. If we talk about the 12 principles, half of those 12 principles fit into physics. For example, I can say squash and stretch, timing, anticipation, follow through. These are some of the principles which I can say will fit under physics. And the list doesn't stop there. We can keep adding more and more things. For example, we can think about gravity, we can think about how the weight of our character, we can think about what kind of environment our character is in, the rigidity of the surface our character is walking or sitting or running into. And like in physics, there's a long list of things you can keep exploring. Physics is life. Like you have to observe life around you. I'm not saying that you have to go to college and get a degree in physics. What I'm trying to say is that you have to be more aware of things happening around you. You have to think, you have to look around you in a physics way. You have to observe physics around you. You will start understanding how our body works, how things around you works, and when you will start observing these things, you will keep getting better in animation. My second principle is invisible physics. What is invisible physics? Invisible physics is the things which are happening inside your character, which are not visible in a physical way. Like for example, you can say the emotions, the behavior, the things happening inside your character. Like for you have to observe emotions of your character in that specific shot. Is your character angry? Is your character hungry? Is your character sad, happy? Or what is the behavior of your character? Is your character always aggressive? Is your character always afraid? Like there are many things. There are many long list of invisible physics also. Like you have to observe like how stressed is your character in that in your animation. What is at stake? Is he in a attacking mode or is he in a defensive mode? You act differently when you are in a attacking mode, and you act differently when you are in a defensive mode. And you have to think what is happening inside your character. There there are many things you can observe happening inside you as well as the character you are animating. And also these emotions and these invisible things inside the character, they also need to hook up with the previous shot and the next shot you will be animating. Let's say if you're working on a sequence, these emotions and behavior need to hook up with the previous and upcoming shot. You have to understand what kind of behavior and mental thing your character is going through in the whole sequence. And remember, like whatever is happening outside, it also need to happen inside. You have to think about both these physical and non-physical things together, and by doing this, I'm definitely sure you will improve your animation. How will you observe invisible physics? You have to start by observing what's happening inside you. What are the things which makes you afraid? What are the things which makes you happy? What are the things which simulate your inside, which simulate your emotions, which simulate your fears, and everything what is happening inside you? I feel that if you start observing what's happening inside you, you will be more sensitive to what's happening inside the character you are animating as well. So my third principle is workflow. What do I mean when I say workflow? In those 12 classical principles, you might have heard straight ahead and pose to pose. These two principles, like straight ahead and pose to pose, I think this is one principle. They work they work best in 2D animation. But right now most of us are 3D animators, and as 3D animators we have softwares like Maya, Blender, and so many other softwares. And in these softwares we have so many controls, we have so many tools to animate. For example, we have graph editor, we have constraints, we have infinity, we can bake our animations, we can attach motion paths, and like there are many lists of things we can do in Maya and in other softwares as well. So we don't really have to think about animation in a black and white way, in straight ahead and pose to pose. Now we can start thinking about animation, we can start planning animation in a way that we can use all these tools, and we can reduce our work as much as possible. We can make our work easier as much as possible, and we can take help of all these tools, and we can even we can develop our own tools using scripts, and there are tons of scripts you can find online. We can use all those scripts, and we can think about how we can animate the specific shot in the best way possible by using all these tools available to us. And also we have to consider that if we are showing our work to a client will give us feedback, and we have to address that feedback. So let's say if you are animating a shot, and you made so many keys in that shot, you made a mess of that the graph editor. When you open your graph editor, you see key on each and every frame, even within frames. If you made a mess of animation, and you have to address those notes, so you have to plan your animation in a way that you can easily address all those notes. Whatever notes you are receiving on your animation, they need to be addressed easily. If your client asks the head need to be moved in a different way, your head need to be in a position that you can easily modify it, and you have to be ready with a good planning, so that in future whenever you are animating, you don't get stuck at any place. So how will you become better in workflow? So you have to start thinking about how to use different kind of tools in Maya. You have to start exploring all different tools in any software you are using, and by exploring those tools you will learn more things, and you will do better animations as well. So my fourth principle is presentable. Presentable is a very simple word. I can say from those 12 classical principles, solid drawings and staging will fit into this category. When I say presentable, I mean that your animation need to look best from the camera angle you are animating. Not just the camera angle, you also have to think about the mood, the story, and the other things which are involved in the in the shot you are animating. And but by saying presentable, I'm trying to bring all the things which you're trying to present on the screen. Those things need to be there on the screen. So how will you make your scene more presentable? How will you learn how to make a scene more presentable? I will say watch the movies just for this purpose. When what I do for to learn about this, I just turn off the sounds of movies and I just watch the movies in silent mode. By doing this, I don't get distracted by the story. I most of the time I get lost in the story. I see how the camera is moved. I see how the characters are acting. I see how the characters are framed inside the camera. I see how the characters are acting in a specific shot. And I think you have to start thinking more about how to make your animation more presentable. So my fifth and last principle is believable. Your animation need to have enough actions to make your animation believable. So the from those 12 classical principles like arcs, slow in, slow down, secondary action, appeal, like these few of these principles we can add into this category. When I say believable, I mean that you should not add any unnecessary actions, and your animation should not be lacking necessary actions also. So I see many animations and on YouTube and on other platforms from many different students, and they add all kind of actions in a acting shot and in a creature shot. Especially in acting shots, the characters are doing all kind of things, and like if it is girl, she will always do this thing, and if it is a guy, again there's a lot of things happening which are not actually related to the story. I'm not saying they are bad, but if you want to make a genuine acting shot, I think your whatever action your character is doing, even if it is a secondary action, it need to be relatable to the story. You should not add any random actions, and even though if those random actions are cool, like even if they make your animation looks better, if they make your animation looks fantastic, but still you have to think about what kind of action are you trying to add. Does it make sense with the story? So I can say the balance is the key thing in this. You have to balance your acting for your character and creature in a way that you don't have too many actions, and you don't have less actions as well. So balance is the key thing in this. So guys, these are the 5 principles which I wanted to share. If you have anything to say, if you feel that my principles are wrong, or if you have any more principles I can add into my list, please let me know. Maybe I'll make another video, or maybe not. I want to hear what you guys have to say about this principles of animation. Do you guys still use those 12 principles of animation, or you guys have different set of rules which you guys use? Please let me know in the comment, and share this video if you think somebody can, if you think that this video can help somebody. Cool.